Mailbag Monday every Sunday on a Tuesday. Oh, you've probably even had it yourself where somebody messages you on Instagram and you hadn't heard from them for a long time and it's like, hey, click on this link and vote for me. And obviously their account's been hijacked. But I got this message from a friend of mine out of Halifax yesterday on Facebook Messenger. And she's like, hey, I'm just sending this to everyone I know. The hackers got my Instagram. Don't open the link.
Okay.
And I just thought it was so funny, the idea of like the hackers. Like there's plural people who have there's a team of hackers that have hijacked this lady's Instagram to get votes for, whatever ND
Yeah.
here's whatever crypto thing has been taken over. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's that. Oh man, that's so funny. All right. Well, let's get into it.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
so true though. Okay, so we got mailbag this morning. Mailbag Mondays, right? Every Sunday, every Tuesday.
Mailbag Monday every Sunday on a Tuesday. I don't know why you constantly say Mailbag Monday. If you just left the Monday off, it could be Mailbag Tuesday without the alliteration.
No, it can't. My weird brain won't let it be. So it's Mailbag Monday every Tuesday, and here we go. Before we dive into it, big thanks to everyone who's supported the show on Patreon.
Oh, we're going right now.
Oh, we're going right now. Yeah. Sorry, do you want me to count us in, Scott?
No, normally I like a 3, 2, 1, but no,
Okay,
this is fine.
Okay, this is good. All right. So thanks to everyone who's supported us on Patreon. So Jeremy Fee.
We're gonna get it together, guys. Sorry.
No, we're not. No, we're almost certainly not. Jeremy V, Mustard Tiger, SPC, Joel, aka Falcon, SCTI, and Yushi. Thanks for the support and the love on Patreon there.
Yes.
On Patreon, we are doing big time baseball movie reviews. We've done Bull Durham, Mr. Baseball, Major League was our one in February. And then for March, we were supposed to do A League of Their Own, but scheduling has just become a nightmare. So it will be out this week, I'm pretty sure. But it might be like April 2nd by the time we get it out. So just a heads up there. And if you're curious as to what we're doing with these movie reviews, we're just having a lot of fun with it. And we do have a free sample clip up on YouTube that we threw up yesterday. So part of our movie review, and we spend 90 minutes, 2 hours on these stupid movie reviews that three people
We
are
really flush it out. Yes, it's
the prep and the work
review
to viewership ratio is way off skew, but we're having a lot of fun. So one of the segments that we do is called Recast the Remake. So we take some of the main characters, and then you and I just come up with our recasting of today's Hollywood stars, and it's a lot of fun. So that one's up on YouTube now, about 15-minute video. So go have a look at that, and then submit your recast in the comments on that one. We had a good one from Dulcimerist in the comment on that one. I'm not going to read his or her entire recasting, but there was a good one at the end here that made me laugh out loud. So this says, I was going to pick the Allstate guy for Pedro Serrano, and then I discovered the Allstate guy is Pedro Serrano. So mind blown. Yeah. And then lastly, before we get
which means he's also the Hammer Dubois, right?
Yeah, Max the Hammer Dubois for Mr. Baseball. Absolutely. All right. Then lastly, before we get into mailbag, big announcement. We have a really big guest coming on the show April 6th, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so April 6th,
Wednesday.
we are going to be doing a sit-down with David Sampson of the Nothing Personal podcast on CBS. So for anybody who isn't familiar with David Sampson, you might not know him by name. Former president of the Montreal Expos, president of the Miami Marlins for like 10, 15 years when they won their World Series. And now he's just a baseball guy talking baseball. Mm-hmm. So really good baseball brain from like a front office executive side of things. So while we all speculate on how much is Vladdy going to get, how do the Jays handle the Bo and Vladdy contract situation, we're going to get to chat with him, and he'll have some
He has actual
like,
insight.
insight into how all those wheelings and dealings go down. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward
And
to
this
that
is a lot to do with you folks, the listeners, like
Yes,
everyone in Discord. And
that's a great point. So how we got David Sampson was I commented on just one of his. He does Monday to Friday a podcast on YouTube. So I just started on. I think it was Friday. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start commenting on all of his videos until he finally like sees one. And
yeah,
so the comment was basically like, "Hey, interview request. We'd love to chat with you, talk about your time with the Expos, etc." And I guess I'm just gonna have to comment on all your videos until you finally agree. And then I put that in Discord, and I was like, "Okay, swarm,
yeah.
right?" And go harass them. So we got a bunch of people from Discord to go reply to that comment and basically like, show
This
that
would
we
be
actually
great.
had fans, right? And then the first day David Sampson responded to it and was like, "Yeah, shoot me a DM and we'll make this happen." So I don't think that happens if we didn't have half a dozen people commenting and saying, "Yeah, David, you should do the walk off." So
Very cool indeed.
appreciate that. Great community we have in Discord. So thanks again to everyone there. It's
Speaking
I
of guests,
continue to be
too,
humbled by Discord.
we have a really cool April coming up.
April's sickening. It's really cool.
So to start with, I do want to mention that we do Jeff Blair of the Blair and Barker Show is going to be joining us. Very excited about that. We haven't worked out a date yet, but
So from my brother, this is Uncle Jer's category that he puts a guy like Jeff Blair into. He's very excited about this Jeff Blair interview. He says, "I love listening to these old newspaper guys who are now like begrudgingly radio guys because newspapers don't exist." And it just like keep moving the field goal, the goalpost down the field here as radio gets eliminated. They're gonna have to move to like
another podcast, guys. Yeah.
exactly. So, all right, no, Jeff Blair's gonna be a really good one too.
It is very cool. And can we mention our biggest get here, or should we just wait until we actually have it locked in?
Well, let's wait till we have a date locked in because I'm just so scared of jinxing it. But
yeah,
it's a big one. It's a big one.
It is
actually,
a big one.
Two of them
like,
are really big ones. So.
Two of them. Like, we'll say it. Can we say not the names, but at least
let's
roster?
No, let's
their
just
roster.
No. Look. We're either going to announce the news or we're going to announce the news that we have news. So let's announce the news. All right, enough of this teaser bullshit. You go ahead.
So when we had Anthony Telford on Long Toss a couple weeks ago, he had this long spiel about who had showed up at his complex during the lockout to continue to train. And, of course, the names he mentioned was Ryan Barucki, Danny Jansen, Jordan Romano, and Nate Pearson. And so we took the clip of him talking about these guys in the bullpen, and we tagged all of them on Instagram. We get a like from Ryan Barucki. Adam, on his horse, right away, reaches out to Ryan. Ryan Barucki looks like he has agreed to after spring training and once they kind of get into the rhythm of the season. And it might not even be till May because you look at their schedule in April and it's pretty insane. But yes. Ryan Barucki looks like he's going to join us. And then as if that wasn't enough, we managed to get a hold of Danny Jansen, and same thing. He responded, and it looks like he's also going to join us. So pretty darn cool.
Very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. So, yeah, lots of big things coming up.
Big
and then we have, I think, 3 or 4 Olympic bronze medalists from the Canadian women's team. So that's going to be also happening in April. I don't know when we're going to find time for all of these, but yeah, just some incredible guests. We also have this one's not baseball related, but I still think it's going to be a great conversation. We have a Paralympic skier snowboarder, so it'd be really cool to talk to him and get his story and everything like that. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming up through April here. So hopefully, I know there's still a lot of excitement around the season starting, but I know by like mid-April we're gonna start to already get that April fatigue setting in. So lots of excitement on the horizon anyways. All right, should we get to the mailbag now?
Yes, I guess so, eh?
All right. So the first one is from Andrew Arbuckle, who says, yes, a fortnight is 2 weeks, half the moon cycle in a month. So
Yes.
appreciate, as always, people giving us definitions of words that we use but don't really know what they
That we
mean.
throw out and
So,
don't truly understand.
yes,
Yes.
appreciate it. So that can continue to be part of the running culture here on the walk off, is give us those definitions. Then we did have about a half a dozen comments along the lines of, nice banter, fellas, or, where the money's made with that pre-show banter. So
Right.
look at us go.
Where you hit record before I even know you're hitting record.
Yes, I think so. There's some really good pre-show banter on that Major League movie review. So
Oh, yes, yes.
you're like, good evening. Anyways, we'll get into it. All right, so next one comes from Adam Carter. This is in response to our video questioning whether Elvis Martinez should be called up and, or, I guess, break camp with the Major League team, because there does seem to be a little bit of hype building around that. Anyway, so this comment is that it would be crazy for Martinez to even get a call up this year, never mind break camp with the team. Keep him in the minors for 2 more years. Chapman's contract will be expired, and then he can take over. No sense in starting his service time clock before it's needed. So, how do you feel about all of the Martinez stuff?
I mean, everything he just said does make sense. I don't think that you necessarily need to put a hard timeline on him. Obviously, if he pushes the Blue Jays front office hand, there's no use in keeping a kid in the minors just to manipulate service time. However, that said, and we touched on this on Friday when we brought this up, right? He hasn't played a game over high A. The obvious hole on this team where he could play is second base, and I know we kind of touched on this too, that yes, everyone acts like second base is the easiest position you could possibly find and that anybody can do it. But, I mean, if Biggio proved anything, it's that just because you play a different position well doesn't mean you necessarily can transfer to a position you haven't played and get it down. So, if Aralvis is going to play on this team this season at some point, he needs to start at Double-A. He's got to get some second base reps in and see how he looks, right? Because right now, I mean, they came out, Charlie Montoyo came out and said that they're going to continue to play him at third and short, which has been his natural positions that he's come up through the Blue Jays ranks so far with.
Yeah.
I think he's a full year away from getting a sniff at the major leagues. Where are you at?
I don't think we see him for a single game this year.
Right.
I do think that the thought of converting him at this point to being a second baseman, like an elite third baseman or an elite shortstop, is inherently more valuable than an elite second baseman. So being that he's so far away, like if he was AAA last year, I could understand all right, we're gonna really we want to bring him up. We
need his bat in the lineup. Yes.
So we're gonna start him April, May, learning second base at AAA. If he can handle it defensively, we call him up, right? And then he just contributes, hopefully. But being that he's at least a full year away, like, it just seems like a waste of time and development, and we're throwing away a little bit of his ceiling by converting him into a second baseman now.
Also, the timeline works out so much better to just let him continue to develop as a 20-year-old, let him start at Double-A and push his hand. I mean, if he winds up getting some playing time at Triple-A this year, it means he's lighting the league on fire, right? So
in a good way.
Let him do that, and then let's talk about position conversion if we need his bat in the lineup that badly. I personally think Matt Chapman's with this team for 2 years, and it's the perfect transition for him to go to third.
2 thoughts. If expanded rosters in September and his bat is absolutely scorching, I could see calling him up, but not to be our everyday second baseman. Just we want that bat in the lineup, and he can DH for us or whatever the case may be. Get him some experience at that level. And then the second thought is, in the case of Matt Chapman having any chunk of time where he's dealing with bad tacos, right? Because we don't want to jinx him with injuries. I think Roshan's gets the call up before Martinez does.
I would think so too. More
So,
experience.
older.
And that's one other thing to just really touch on before we move on from this is that I know Gabriel Moreno, Jordan Groshans, Aurelvis Martinez, they were all sent down to minor league spring training. And there were some people questioning this on Blue Jays Twitter. It's a little bit of a talking point. I just want to kind of put the idea out there that this is obviously so these guys can continue to get at bats. It's going to be clogged up as games progress and guys are playing longer. No one's playing one inning anymore. They're
Right.
trying to get their starters in there. I mean, it's a condensed spring training. So they need to make sure that these major league guys are ramped up when the season starts April 8th.
Absolutely. Great point. Anything else to add there, or should we move on?
Let's move on.
All right. This next one comes from David, who I guess this is in response to I think something we talked about on Long Toss with Kevin Biggio not being a superstar like Bobichette and Vladdy, and that he won't have the superstar contract to go with it. So the point I had made was just that we can't have 15 guys on the team making $30 million a year. So like we are going to have some holes, right? Like there's going to be spots for that. But his analogy really made me laugh. So David says, Adam is right. We can't have every guy riding a sweet sled. Sometimes you just need an average guy riding a crazy carpet that doesn't cost as much. So, and I love crazy carpets.
I want a GT racer playing third base. I want an endorsed by Brett Hall GT racer, and that is all I accept.
All right. Well, I'll take a crazy carpet at second. So,
Okay.
but I'll also take the GT racer at third. I mean, we got one at short, first, third, and center field, so you might as well.
That's right.
All right. Next one comes in from Twitter. This is at DuckDuckJays. Tweeted us. Another hit in yesterday's spring game from Greg Bird.
Oh, yeah.
Are you gents on the Greg Bird hype train yet? Scott?
You know what? I sort of am starting to get on the hype train. You know what? Greg Bird has put up a hell of a spring, and he does have a cool story. I mean, this is
What
a
is
dude
his story for people that don't know?
So he was a top-rated prospect in the Yankee system back in 2015, and he kind of got a little bit of a sniff at first base. He played really well, showed power instantly. Then he got injured, and then it was injury after problem, COVID season. It just like every hand that this dude had been dealt was a bum hand for like about half a decade, 5 years pretty much. And finally last year, he wound up in which system was he in last year? I should have looked this up. I forget now. However, he played really well at AAA, and it was the first time that he had a full-on healthy season and made progress since he was pretty much highly touted.
Right.
So now he's in the Jays system. They need a lefty bat. Could be that bench guy, especially with the 28-man roster to start the season. He might actually slot in as that extra infield guy. I mean, we talked about the lack of versatility positionally. First base is pretty blocked, and you don't want to have a guy DHing too much, but it's an option off the bench and a pretty decent option, and if he continues to hit, I'd be all right with it.
So I know we're going to have expanded rosters for the first month of the season, right? 2 extra spots. 28-man roster for, I think, all of April. We're going to have to start the year with 3 catchers, right?
I think so.
For just like, a bunch of reasons we don't have to get into right now. Most likely 3 catchers. And then we're talking probably...
Well, the reasons are you don't want to put them on waivers.
You've got to protect from waivers.
You'd lose one, yes.
Plus, roster flexibility and lineup construction and stuff like that, right? Like, yeah. 4 outfielders we're going with.
I would say so.
And then,
at least.
And then if we're saying Greg Bird makes the team, that's Chapman at third, Bichette at second. Bird is in
Espinal
there.
and
Espinal and
Biggio,
Biggio at second, and Vladdy.
Vladdy, and Bird at first. Yes.
Vladdy and Bird. So that's 6 plus our 3 catchers. That's 9 infielders. Well, I guess catchers aren't really infielders, but okay. Well, that's a lot of defensive. I want more bullpen guys. I guess is
Well, yeah. I think there's going to be one extra fielder and one extra bullpen. I mean, they might go with 10 bullpen pieces, which would mean Bird doesn't make the team.
right. All right. Well, Bird is I guess the bubble guy, right?
He is sort of the bubble guy, yes.
Oh, what do you think about Josh Palacios? Any chance Palacios is the left-handed bat that makes this team as the extra guy?
I mean,
As a
we
fifth
brought this up.
outfielder.
We brought this up on Friday. I would prefer Palacio to
too.
Bird for a lot of reasons, but the main one being the positional versatility really fits better with this team. He's a lefty bat. He plays right field, left field, and center field, so all the outfield positions. He's got speed. He hits the ball on the ground again, so he's kind of a Tapia type of dude, but Palacio does have some power too, and when he gets a hold of it, he gets a hold of it well. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, honestly, am I going to be super upset if Greg Bird makes the team over Josh Palacio? Nah, it's fine.
Alrighty then. Let's move on to the next one here. Just a couple last ones to get to. So, Mary J's 420 on Twitter DM'd us and said, "Hey guys, really enjoying Long Toss on Sundays. Hearing all of you talk the Grichuk trade was really interesting. I really liked him. Do you think Randall could improve in Colorado?"
First of all, great question. Glad that you enjoyed Long Toss. I mean, the short answer is yes. I think that Colorado could be really good for Randall Grichuk. Coors Field has a history of being great for hitters. The elevation, especially with guys like Grichuk, who is kind of a strikeout home run type of dude. So I think we're going to see his home runs head in the right direction. I think he breaks 30 again this year. He's a good center fielder, and he's going to play 50 games if he stays healthy with the Rockies. I think it could be a really good move for Randall Grichuk. He could wind up, who knows? If he has a strong start, he's the type of guy who might even see an all-star game. I don't think Randall Grichuk is a guy who is ever going to put together a full consistent season. But, if he gets hot at the right time, you could see him do something like an all-star game.
Scott, are you ready for all of the wild outrage from Blue Jays fans when Tapia starts the season hitting below the Mendoza line, and Randall Grichuk looks like Mike Trout out there in Colorado? Because it feels inevitable. I mean, he does have he's good in April and May, right? Like, that's always been his thing. So he's going to get out to a hot start. Colorado, he's going to hit more home runs, which is a stat that everybody seems to care about, right? Like, it's just the easiest one to point to and go,
of course,
he's awesome. So we're going to hear it, and I don't care to listen to it. No matter what
it's going to be hilarious.
It's gonna
Randall is a guy, too. Randall's a dude who for sure could hit 12 home runs and 22 RBIs in April, and everyone would be like, oh my God,
what have we done?
He'll hit 40. And no, he's not going to hit 40, but he will hit 30, and he will have moments where, yes, there are Blue Jays fans, the same Jays fans, by the way, who were crying about Randall Grichuk last year and saying, dump his salary. So...
All right. Well, good luck in Denver to Randall Grichuk. Last one here. So this is just some discussion that kind of happened in Discord, but it revolved around whether or not the Jays have done enough to replace Marcus Semien. And someone spoke up and said, well, a healthy George Springer is easily 4.5 WAR, and I think he can get to 6. And we're sure Chapman already provides at least 3 to 3.5 WAR by his defense alone. That should be enough. So
I saw that. That was Rezi, I think.
Yes. Rezi.
I mean, great point. Do you think the Jays have done enough to make up for Simeon leaving?
I do. I absolutely do. My only problem with this comment is I feel like it's not a fair statement to go, well, we should get more production from Springer. It just if we're talking about have the Jays done enough this off season, we can any extra production we get from George Springer, and I hope it's a lot, doesn't in my books from like a technically standpoint doesn't count as something the Jays did this off season, right? Like it counts to whether or not this team gets to 100 wins or whatever we do, right? A healthy George Springer is good. But it's not a move we did this offseason. So I don't want to score it in that category, but I think even without scoring any added production from George Springer, a healthy George Springer, I think that it's a push. The just adding Chapman is a push with Marcus Semien, I think.
I feel the same way. I really look at the way that this roster has been constructed, and I don't see Simeon's departure as being a problem anymore. But even on a wider scale, let's even go further than just the offensive pieces that they have added, right? Because I don't think it's necessarily just the addition of Chapman that makes this that's going to make up for Simeon leaving. I think one of the biggest things with this Blue Jays 2022 roster is that the bullpen is so much deeper than it was last year, man. So much deeper, and nobody's really talking about it. But you look at the high leverage pieces that Montoyo now has to go to, and it is impressive, right? Like you've got Jordan Romano at the top of that rotation or that bullpen. Tim Meza is going to be a high leverage lefty.
Yep.
You've got Yimi Garcia, which, by the way, and I think I need to remember this, and Adam, you'll put this little feather in your cap, but he actually prefers Jimmy. It's the proper way of pronouncing his name. So, I mean, I know so little about Spanish, of course. I was like, what? It's Jimmy. But, yeah. So
Get the fuck out.
Jimmy Garcia.
All right.
So Jimmy Garcia. And then you've got Trevor Richards and Adam Simber, and they're going to slot right back in that 7th inning, 8th inning. You're going to see Montoyo go to them, and then Nate Pearson and Ross Stripling is back there. David Phelps could make this team. Of course, Andrew Vasquez, which is a guy that everyone continues to forget about, but he was signed to a major league contract, so he's going to be in the bullpen. He's a lefty. Julian Merriweather could make this team. Taylor Saucedo is having himself a heck of a spring to the point where people are like, well, is Saucedo making this team over Baraki? So Ryan Baraki is another guy who he's out of options, so we could see him on this team and probably should be. I know Baraki was a guy we mentioned off the top, might be on the show later, but Baraki was that Telford's complex, and Anthony Telford raved about his improvements and how much more compact and his timing's down.
Well, I mean, just speaking options, if that's what it comes down to, like if we're looking at our last spot in the bullpen, and I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but if it does come down to like Saucedo, let's just say, is having a better spring and is pitching better, has all the stuff that we are looking for. Baraki is not quite there or on that level yet. But if Baraki has no options and Saucedo does, which is the case, I don't see any way you can expose Baraki to being. It's
for sure going to come down to options.
Right?
You're 100% right, man.
So he might be a victim of options in that case. So
asset management.
That's the name of the business, right? And
Anthony Castro's another guy that is another layer of depth that pitched very well for this bullpen last year. And honestly, man, so I just named 13 dudes. At the most, and this is if Greg Bird isn't on this roster, they are going to carry 10 of those 13 I just mentioned. And we didn't even bring up the guys who literally dominated last year in AA and AAA. Hagen Danner is a dude who's on this 40-man roster. Fitz Stadler has made huge steps over the last year. Kyle Johnston. I mean, yes, I just named three guys that have come on the show, but I'm not just mentioning these three dudes because of that. These three guys will probably pitch on this Jays team if
This
there's
year.
any injuries this year.
Well,
Like,
not even injuries. The way that, I mean, this is across the entire league. This is across the entire sport. But the way a bullpen gets used nowadays is you do take advantage of those options of the AAA guys to have an extended bullpen, like with pitchers, starting pitchers pitching shorter into a game, right? A typical pitcher goes 5, 6 innings now, and you're happy with it. Whereas, even 5, 10 years ago, guys are going 6, 7, 8 innings, right? To go pitch a complete game is almost impossible now, right? Like
yes.
it's
So bullpens are
it's
being
breaking
worked a lot
news.
harder
Like,
than they
hey,
used to be.
someone's pitching a no hitter through 8, right? And everybody turns to the Marlins game to see what somebody's, to keep track of it, right? Like that's what it was before. For a perfect game, you tune in. Now we tune in when it's like, hey, Barrios has a complete game going, right? Like he's pitching into the 8th. You better tune in.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
it's stupid. So, anyways, with that being said, that is kind of the way those bullpens and the AAA arms get used. Is it is like an expanded bullpen almost, right? Where a guy who's in AAA is just basically waiting for that time where the starting pitcher went 3 innings and we had to burn through our entire bullpen, and then guess what? That's when Sacedo gets called up and somebody else gets swapped down just so they can have the rest on their arm and then get called right back up a week later. So.
This list of names for the bullpen
It's
is proof that this front office was burned by the bullpen last year, right?
Yeah,
Like
fool
you
me
look at the
once,
list
shame
of
on
names.
me.
Yeah, they're like, no, not happening again.
No, it is good. Like I do think we're in a strong position where in the case of bad tacos, we do have a lot of depth that I don't think we should be stressed about. Like last year. Yeah, last year was bad.
Got pretty hairy, man.
Got pretty
in
hairy,
May,
so.
it was pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
I think
just-
if nothing else, I don't think we have to worry about needing to make a trade to fix our bullpen this year. So that's good. That's good right
it
there.
is. It is.
Yeah, I think. Okay, here's one last question I want to ask you just about the Chapman addition, right? Because I go back and forth between like who's better defensively, Marcus Semien or Matt Chapman, right? Like for the casual fan who might not be in on like those like advanced sabermetrics and all the stupid stats that are like they mean something, but they're also like too complicated for anyone like my dumbass to even follow along, right? So like
Yes.
both guys are Gold Glove winners like on multiple occasions, right? Chapman at third base with Espinal and Biggio at second feels defensively better to me than Semien at second base and Espinal Biggio at third base, right? So
Agreed.
if nothing else, that's defensively an improvement, right? Like even if you want to say Simeon's better defensively than Chapman, and I don't think that's the case. I think just from third base, second base, I think that's a huge win for us, locking up that hot corner at third base.
The step forward that this team is taking defensively at third base compared to the step down they're taking at second, it's just this is a better infield than it was last year.
For sure it is. Now, we're going to talk power of bat between Chapman and Semien. Okay, so that's our focus for this little thing. Keep this in mind. Both Semien and Chapman had 30-ish home run seasons in Oakland. Okay, that was their Oakland home run potential. We know Oakland is bad for home runs for a bunch of reasons. The Coliseum there, it's a big stadium. Anyways, Semien comes over, hits 48 home runs last year, was it? 46.
45.
45. I'd get there eventually. I don't think Matt Chapman hits that many home runs, but I do think he has more power in his bat than Marcus Semien does.
Interesting.
So I think statistically, if you look at their careers in Oakland before they came to Toronto, I think that backs me up. If I'm wrong, I'm sure we'll hear about it in the comments. We'll save that for next week. But I do think because of where Chapman's going to hit in our lineup, he is going to produce fewer home runs. I think that having Semien hitting leadoff or number 2 with his bat protected by Vladdy and Teo and everything like that behind him. I think it's just he saw better pitches than what Matt Chapman's going to see. I think Matt Chapman is going to be very valuable, but with guys like Espinal and Danny Jansen hitting directly behind him, I think a pitcher gets to Chapman and goes, all right, well, let's pitch around him. Let's do whatever we
You hit the
do.
nail on the head here. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. I mean, Matt Chapman just profiles as a very different hitter than Marcus Semien did, and the fact that he's more of a strikeout home run guy is going to see him lower in the lineup. Semien was a guy that you saw in that leadoff spot a lot because Springer was injured, and when he wasn't, he was hitting second. That's one extra hit, one extra at-bat a game.
Yeah.
In comparison to where Chapman will probably be hitting around, what, 6th, 7th? So, it's just low enough in the lineup to see one fewer at-bat a game, and that's going to add up into less production, of course.
Yeah. He's still going to get plenty of at-bats, but yes.
Plenty of at-bats, and he's
fewer than the
he's
leadoff
still going to
guy's
hit 30-plus bombs.
Yes.
Absolutely, he will, for sure.
So, all right. That's all we got for Mailbag today. Thanks, Scott. This has been a lot of fun. Do you want to shout out
Yeah,
the socials?
always a pleasure. At Walk Off Podcast on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. You can always shoot us a DM if you've got a comment or question you want on the mailbag. You can tweet at us. You can also, you'll see it in the show notes here. There's going to be a link for our Discord, which is always active. You can join that for free. And then there's also a link for our Patreon if you feel like supporting a couple of bonehead comedians, sort of somewhat knowing what they're talking about with
But
Blue
great
Jays
banter.
stuff.
We do great banter.
But great banter. Fantastic
Not experts,
banter. Really.
but great
Yeah.
banter. All right, man. Good talking to you, and we'll see you
Right
Friday.
back at you. Looking forward to it.